Hello, my name is Robbie Berg, and I'm a hurricane specialist at the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida. In this talk, I will be discussing NOAA's efforts to advance hurricane risk communication via the social, behavioral, and economic sciences, or SBES. I would like to thank the other members of the NOAA Tropical Social Sciences team for helping with this presentation. And they include Jen Sprague Hildebrand and Jessica Schaller from the National Weather Service, and Drs. Gina Esco, Castle Williams, and Nikki Olson from the Weather Program Office of the Office of Oceanic and Atmospheric Research. One objective of this talk is to set the stage for NOAA's research needs among the social, behavioral, and economic sciences. I'm excited to hear the presentations that follow this one because I can see every other study within this session ultimately benefiting NOAA and NWS in our vision to create effective and usable hurricane forecast products for our partners and customers. So what is it that we're trying to do here? Well, the social, behavioral, and economic sciences act as a sort of guardrail in what we're trying to do to achieve a weather-ready nation, which is a society that's prepared for and equipped to respond to weather, water, and climate-dependent events. We require these social, behavioral, and economic sciences, again, to be these guardrails or bumpers that keep NOAA on a trajectory towards success in achieving this vision. We're attempting to knock down as many pins as possible. We have short-term goals where we're currently rolling down the lane, and we're attempting to knock down pins on the horizon of about 5 to 10 years based on current social science projects. However, we also have long-term goals where we lead these sciences in everything we do to ensure that we don't just win the game, but that we actually win the tournament. These social, behavioral, and economic science guardrails ensure that we don't end up pointless in the gut. Back in 2017, Congress passed the Weather Research and Innovation Act, or simply called the Weather Act, essentially instructing federal agencies, including NOAA, to use the social sciences to better understand how citizens receive, interpret, and respond to weather warnings and forecasts. In particular, Congress requested that risk communication research be employed in the hurricane realm to create more effective watch and warning products through the Hurricane Forecast Improvement Program, or HFIP. HFIP has already been instrumental in the development of new tropical cyclone products over the past 5 to 10 years, including new storm surge, inundation, and warnings products and services, as well as products conveying when tropical storm force winds could begin in association with hurricanes and tropical storms. The HFIP strategic plan lays out a timeline from this point forward to meet the goals of improved hurricane risk communication. The first task is to complete a baseline understanding of user needs and requirements, a process which is currently ongoing with several of the social science projects that I'll talk about shortly. After the baseline understanding has been crystallized, NOAA will then work over the next several years to improve how we communicate hurricane risks. This could include creating new or modifying existing NWS products, but it could also include transforming the way that risk information is disseminated and injected into the weather communication system. The ultimate HFIP goal is to modernize the NWS tropical cyclone product suite by the latter end of the current decade, although undoubtedly improvements to our hurricane risk communication methods will continue even after that point. So I like to think of the different projects that NOAA is associated with as a honeycomb. There are 9 social, behavioral, and economic science projects that are currently ongoing or have just recently finished up, with which NOAA has direct connections and linkages with. Among these, you'll note is that there's the Cone of Uncertainty, Social and Behavioral Science Research, which I'll talk about shortly. And there's also 4 distinct projects that are tied to what's known as the Hurricane Supplemental, or funding that was provided by Congress after Hurricane Harvey and other hurricanes in 2017. There are also some other projects within this honeycomb that NOAA has some less direct interactions with. However, all of these projects combine to produce a product, or the honey, that will go into this honeypot, which is NOAA's aim to improve the effectiveness of hurricane risk communication. So we need all of these projects to maximize the effectiveness of that communication. Let me start with the Cone of Uncertainty project. This project actually just completed back in December of 2020. It was conducted by Eastern Research Group. That firm had 3 phases essentially of this research, where first they conducted a literature review looking at how emergency managers, broadcast meteorologists, and the public use the Cone of Uncertainty in their decision making. Those 3 audiences in particular have been studied immensely over the past several years, and so that literature audit exists. Secondly, the team conducted interviews with international meteorologists. The National Hurricane Center does not just provide forecasts for citizens within the United States, but we also provide hurricane forecasts for those living across Central America, Mexico, the Caribbean Sea, and other areas bordering the Atlantic and Eastern Pacific Oceans. So it's critical to get an understanding about how other forecasters from other countries actually use the cone of uncertainty. And thirdly, the team conducted surveys looking at 4 specific sectors: the tourism and recreation sector, the energy and utility sector, the marine sector, and the transportation sector. What we wanted to do here was to survey some of the lesser investigated sectors, besides EMs, besides broadcast meteorologists, to get an understanding of how they use the cone of uncertainty in their day-to-day decision-making. There were 4 cross-cutting themes that fell out of this research. First off is misinterpretations. And what the studies found is that both non-experts and sector professionals alike have misunderstandings about the cone. So while it's used a lot, the cone is also misinterpreted by many people. Secondly, the cone has ubiquity and familiarity. It's the most well-known and pervasive, and sometimes the only NOAA hurricane product that is accessed by users. So we know that we can't just take the cone away, but we actually have to find a way to make it better because it is such a widely used product and it is so well known. Third, the product has value to decision making. It's valuable and even critical to the decision making for international forecasters and for sector professionals. And fourth, messaging. There is a battle, however, between how much information the cone product should show. Should it show too much information, which causes confusion? Or, as some people said, they wanted actually more information, more parameters on this product so that it's a more holistic view of what's expected with the storm. So NOAA has a pretty steep challenge ahead of it to figure out how much information should this product show, so that's not showing too little and it's not showing just too much. Now, the Hurricane Supplemental Social Science projects, as I mentioned, there are 4 of them. And those 4 projects are, there's a chance of what, where the researchers at the University of Oklahoma National Institute for Risk and Resilience are assessing the numeracy skills of different groups. Secondly, there's the Minding the Gap project, where a team from NCAR at the University of Washington looking at how to modernize the Tropical Cyclone product suite. Third, there's an Optimizing Tropical Cyclone Information project, where a team from the University of Washington and the University of Toronto is conducting an NHC website usability study from a public perspective. And then fourth, Wait, That Forecast Changed, where another team from NCAR is assessing how publics consume and process changing tropical cyclone forecasts over time. Now, NOAA knew that there would be linkages across these 4 projects when they were first thought about a few years ago before they were actually funded. However, what's really great about these 4 projects is that since we've talked to the PIs as they've been conducting their research, they're having more linkages that have kind of come and bubbled to the top, which has been great. So for example, between There's a Chance of What and Wait, That Forecast Changed, we know that both of these projects are going to help NOAA because they're both looking at how the public consumes tropical cyclone information, both the uncertainty of that information and then as that information changes over time. So the products that result from those 2 projects can be combined in the end to help us understand what NOAA should do to improve our products. We'll be doing this through what's called triangulation, and this has parallels to making a hurricane forecast. As a hurricane forecaster, I receive a multitude of different types of data when trying to settle on a hurricane's intensity. It can come from buoys, hurricane hunter aircraft, satellite, radar, and sometimes these data agree, but sometimes they just don't. So it's up to me as a forecaster to decide on a representative intensity that's based on all of these data combined. And it'll be the same sort of thing for the social science projects. NOAA can't just act on one singular research project and make decisions. We have to use all the projects that are currently ongoing to come up and find ways that these projects are linked and that we are actually maximizing the number of partners and customers that benefit from any changes as much as possible. So this triangulation process will be key in helping us figure out the best way to maximize the effectiveness of a hurricane forecast communication. So just to circle back, again, here's the honeycomb of all the 9 projects that are currently ongoing or just finishing up. We expect actually that we'll be adding more cells to this honeycomb in the coming years. New projects will be funded. We'll be looking at other aspects of risk communication. And the results that fall into those projects will also go into helping NOAA understand how to improve its hurricane risk communication. There are also other external projects, which NOAA may not have a direct link to, but will still prove useful in helping us with this objective to increase or maximize the effectiveness of hurricane risk communication information. So with that, thank you for listening to this talk. I look forward to hearing the other talks in this session because I think they'll all have usefulness to NOAA as we continue to improve how we communicate forecast risk information. You can contact me at my email address there, robert.berg@noaa.gov, if you'd like to discuss this further or if you have any questions. And thank you for your time.